Hello, Garland Nixon here, and we're going to talk about Ukraine and Israel. We're going to talk about them as individual countries, but we're going to talk about a certain unity of purpose relative to their master. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here. We're going to talk about Israel and Ukraine. But, for the most part, when we discuss foreign policy, Americans, particularly Israel or Ukraine, we talk about them individually. We talk about them as Israel's doing this or Ukraine is doing that. I think what we need to do to understand U.S. foreign policy and to understand Israel and Ukraine. We'll talk about the similarities. We'll talk about the unity of purpose, how they both fit into the puzzle. Let's talk about them in a little bit of a different context rather than this is the traditional context. And that is Ukraine is a tool that was set up for those of you who understand foreign policy, for those who are walking around saying Putin's he hates democracy and blah, blah, blah. You're probably on the wrong video channel. But here's my point. For those of you who truly have a deep understanding of, and it doesn't have to be deep, any kind of an understanding of U.S. foreign policy through a historical context, and you understand what's going on here. If you understand the issue of empire, if you understand that the United States doesn't have 900 bases around the world, because we do diplomacy or because we're part of the world community. It's because the intent of an empire is one thing and one thing only: domination. In the context of imperial domination, the U.S. is an empire. The U.S. has 900 bases around the world. Anyone who wants to push back on that, how can you have 900 bases around the world? No one else. What does China have? One. What does Russia have? Few around their outer periphery and some of the stands around there. I think they have a couple in Syria. That's pretty much it. And so you've got three major world powers: the U.S., China, Russia. The U.S. has 900 world bases around the world. Russia has a couple right around its general area and one in Syria. China has one in Djibouti, and that's it, one in Djibouti. And the country that has 900 bases around the world says, we're worried about Russia and China. They want to threaten and dominate us. And Americans are stupid enough. I'm not going to use the word stupid. That's not right, because stupid implies cognitive impairment. It implies intellectual limits, and that's not the case. Americans are, for any number of reasons, conned and propagandized into believing that the U.S. is acting for the good of the order, that we've got those 900 bases because I don't really know why. Why? I don't know why. I guess to help people out, to do good things, to feed the poor, blah, blah, blah. And that every time you turn around, we're in another war to do good things. You got to be naive and totally brainwashed into a cult to believe that crap. But luckily for the people on this channel, luckily for the people that are listening, we know better. We understand what those 900 bases are for. And therefore, we have a context for Israel and Ukraine. An imperial context, the empire context. And if you don't want to use the word empire or imperialist, you can use whatever word you want to. The word is not important. What we're talking about is important, right? We get so hung up in language that we feel that the word we use to describe something is more important than what we're describing. So therefore, if you're on the right and you're more conservative, you don't like empire and imperial. I don't know why these lefties call it empire and imperial. We can call it bananas. It doesn't matter what we call it. Ultimately, luckily, and we're going in a direction where there are people who are lefties and socialists, conservatives, on and on, who understand what they're up against. They may have different perspectives on it. They may have different methods in their mind to resolve it, but they understand what we're up against. And number one, if you understand what something is, if you understand what something is, you understand what it does, right? If you understand, one of the things that martial arts, right, particularly like say kung fu or something like that, what do? They talk about an animal, the snake technique, right? The snake keeps everything in front of it. Ooh, it strikes, comes back, keeps everything in front of it, right? Ooh. The crane, right? The crane strikes from different angles. You got the beak here, it strikes from different angles. It's unorthodox. It moves all over the place, right? They understand what something is. That's a crane, then I know what it does. That's a snake, then I know what it does. But if I think that a crane is a snake or a monkey is a whatever, then I don't know what it does because I don't know what it is, right? If you understand what that the United States is an empire, then you automatically know what it does. If you think the United States is just another country that's out for the good of the order, then you will constantly be confused. You will constantly say, well, gee, why is that crane keeping everything in front of it? Why is that crane striking and coming back and smoothly moving and keeping everything? That doesn't make sense because you don't understand it's not a crane, it's a cobra, right? We here understand this is an empire. Once you understand it's an empire, everything else starts to become clear and come into context, right? So an empire does one thing. Well, an empire does two things, right? And it's important before I get into Ukraine and Israel, for those of you who've never heard me have this, that I talk about that. And an empire does two things. Think of an empire like an octopus. An octopus has its mouth in the middle and it has all these arms. So like say the mouth and the body's in the middle and all of these arms going out in different directions. And what does those arms do? They reach out. They're radial structures. They reach out from the center. That octopus wants to eat, I don't know, a fish. Oh, there's a fish. One of these arms reaches out, grabs the fish, brings the fish back into the center, and he eats the fish. Hooray! Fish dinner. Yummy, right? That's the way to think of an empire. An empire, let's say the U.S. government in the 48 contiguous states is here. And what does it do? It reaches out and it grabs finances. It extracts things. It grabs natural resources. These arms reach out, these radial structures all over the world, and grab things and pull them back here for the purposes of making lots of money and getting rich. Now, what has happened with the US, what is really interesting is something different. There is a new version of empire, and that's important to understand. The traditional empire had a center. This is the octopus in the center, and the arms reach out from the center. Now we have something that we call globalism. Let me explain something to you. From my perspective, you may disagree. One of the things they figured out was, you know what? If we grab everything and put it in the middle here in the US, yeah, that's great because we have it all in one place. But because an empire does not isn't there to benefit the masses. It's there to benefit the few small people at the top who control it, right? A small group of people, right? Those group of people do not have to be located in the 48 contiguous states, do they? They don't have to be located in DC or New York or wherever, right? Furthermore, their funds don't have to be located in there. So where the US empire is different from previous empires is this. Now other empires did this on a smaller basis, but has now become part of the foundation of the U.S. empire, and all of this is important to talk about Israel and Ukraine. The masters of the empire, right, the ruling elite, the oligarchs, have figured something out. Why do I need to keep my money in DC, New York, LA, or Chicago, or my finances, or anything? I can put it anywhere, wherever it maximizes. So what do they do now? You'll notice that a lot of these island nations that are used for what are they called? Shell companies, the Cayman Islands used to hide money, right? That a lot of these companies they're islands that are former colonies of the British Crown. And I say former in air quotes because what the colonial powers did with most of these countries was they gave them a flag, but they didn't give them independence. They continue to control a corrupt fake government. You got an island here. I say you're free, but I keep a fake government there. You're not free. I control that government. And I then say, pass laws so that I can put all the money I want there. You pass laws. So now guess what? If I make $1 billion and I put it in the United States, I got to deal with taxes. Maybe I got to deal with laws, different things like that. If I make that same $1 billion and I put it in the Cayman Islands, the island of man, wherever, Cyprus, you name it, I put it in these islands that are under control of the British Crown from in one way or the other. I can do what I want. You never know where that money's went. I can do anything I want with it, right? So what we have now is this. We have an empire where instead of bringing all the money into the center of the empire and hoarding it there, they hide the money any day. They're the globalists. They don't give a crap. They hide the money anywhere in the world they can that benefits them, which means something more important. They have no stake in the United States. What do they care if the US falls apart? What do they care if the US empire, if the center of it crashes? They no longer have a stake. Their money ain't here. What do they care if the dollar crashes? Right now, one of the things that's happening, you see Trump doing these tariffs and the markets. Look, what happened the last time he did the tariffs? And this is all going to be related. So don't think I'm going out of tangent. This is related to Ukraine and Israel. What happened the last time Trump did the tariffs? Trump, the US government, the oligarchs did the tariffs. They did the tariffs. The markets crashed, right? What did they do? They sold before the markets crashed. The markets crashed. They went in, they bought everything cheap. What do? They drive down the price of assets, and then that's what they did in 2008. That's what they did in the dot-com crash. That's what they did during COVID. They drive down the price of assets, right? I got to pay $100 for that stock. I sell it at $100. I drive the price down to $20 and I buy it back up, and then it goes back up to $20. I mean, to $100. You see what I'm saying? So what happens now? You think they ain't selling? Trump's about to do all these tariffs again. So what are they going to do? It's another asset grab. He's going to do these tariffs, crazy tariffs. Look at 50% on this country. Well, the markets are going to crash. That's the idea. They're selling off now. He's going to do these tariffs. Boom, they're going to crash the value of assets, and then they're going to come in and buy it at rock bottom prices. That's what they do. That's what they do. And every time they do, they extract more money out. They extract more money out of our pockets. They're extracting money out of your 401k. They're extracting money out of everything. That's the game plan. That's what the empire does. Now, when you understand that, Ukraine and Israel start to come into focus. You understand that this is an empire, that it's an empire that's bent on domination, because you can't do that stuff if you don't dominate the world, because you got to control everybody else. You got to get those natural resources. You got to do this. They don't care as much about natural resources. And this is important. This is important with the industrialization. There was a time when they cared about natural resources because they used them to make things. So if I'm building widgets and I need oil, I need gas, I need nickel, I need all of these things to build these things, right? So I want to go to those countries, overthrow the government, and install a puppet so that I can get those natural resources at a very low price, because I'm using them to build things, right? But they don't build things anymore. So what value are natural resources? They're very, very valuable. Why is that? Because if I'm doing speculation, if I'm dealing with oil futures, if I control the oil flow, the futures, the derivatives, when to do a put, right? I know when to bet that they're going to drop and when to bet that the prices are going to go rise. And why? Because I control them. I don't need the oil per se, or the gas, or the natural resources. I need control of the flow of them so that I can do a couple of things. If I got this oil and oil infrastructure, et cetera, I can take out a loan against it, right? If I got this oil and oil infrastructure, I can speculate. I can rig the game. I can say, I think the price is going to go up to X or go down to X, and then I can bet on it in the market. And then I can make it go up to X or down to X. It's essentially like a football player or a basketball player. And the basketball player bets that he's going to lose the game. And when he goes to the free throws, to the foul line to shoot a couple of free throws, the game-winning free throws, he just throws the ball out of bounds because he wants to lose. because the game is rigged and he makes his money. He's like, well, if I stay on it, somebody's paid me $1 billion to lose this game. I'm shooting a brick. I'm throwing it, I'm blindfolded. I'm missing that shot. Why? Because I make a lot more money to lose than I do to win. It doesn't matter if I win or lose. It matters that I know whether I'm going to win or lose so that I can make the money based on that foreknowledge of what's going to happen. They don't care about the oil and the nickel and the gas because from the perspective of industrial use, because we don't have industry anymore. We are a financialized economy. So we got to control it in order to keep our our finances up, in order to be able to have a rigged game. Okay. Is it an accident? Let's put these two together. Where's Israel? It's sitting there where all the oil is. Oh, wait a minute, Venezuela, we're trying to overthrow them. What do they have? Oh, that's right. They've got the largest stash of oil of any country in the world that we know of now. Not really, but they've got this unbelievable stash of oil. So clearly, it appears that they've got the largest stash of oil in South America. They're on the hit list. Right. What about Russia? Oh my gosh, they probably do have the largest stash in the world, but they got everything else. Do we need that oil and gas? No, we don't need that oil and gas. We need control of that oil and gas. Derivatives, asset-backed securities. Think about this, asset-backed securities. In other words, financial tools that are based on assets, on real things. What if that asset is oil? And now I sell securities based on an asset, and the asset is oil. You see what I'm saying? So is it an accident? Ukraine? There's two things. There's oil and industry. And what do we say? We want to take out China. Why? Because they got all the industry. What about Russia? They got the oil. They got the gas. What about the Middle East? They got the oil. They got the gas. So we got two monsters that we're using, two tools, as it were, that we're using for the U.S. empire to control everything. Number one, Israel. Israel's in the Middle East. We can control the flow of oil. We can control the price of oil. What was it that made Donald Trump back off of Iran? What was it? Think about it. And we're throwing bombs at Israel. They can give a crap less about Israel and all the Israelis. Let's be honest, though. They don't love the Israelis. They're cannon fodder in the same way that the Ukrainians are. But when Iran said we're going to close the Straits of Hormuz, they're like, oh, what's going to happen to the oil speculators and the quadrillion dollar speculative market on oil and the derivative market and all that stuff? Iran's like, yeah, I think we might have to close the Straits of Hormuz. What did Trump say? Time out. Why? Because the plan in the original was for just to take Iran out, to do a quick overthrow of the government, and we got it all good. We're straight. We control the Middle East. We got it made. When that didn't, in the same way that the plan was to take Russia out early. When they couldn't take Russia out early, they didn't have a backup plan, and they're just trying to put out fires and fumbling along. When they didn't take Iran out early, they underestimated them. They didn't have a backup plan, so they're stumbling along, and then all of a sudden, Iran says, "Yeah, that's a nice looking derivative market you got there. Be ashamed if we had to destroy it." And Trump went, time out. We're going to regroup. Sorry about that, Iran. Hope we weren't out of line with that whole thing about overthrowing your government. But perhaps we'll walk away and talk about and talk. Now, Iran knows that the U.S. is regrouping, trying to figure out another plan to take them out. But one thing Iran made sure, that plan ain't going to work. And as far as straight out attacking Iran anymore, maybe I'm wrong. We shall see. I kind of doubt it'll happen because that frontal assault, they don't have the horsepower to do that frontal assault. And Iran's getting stronger, and the people are gathering the wagons, circling the wagons around the government. So I think the plan of just to go head on and slam into Iran, which everybody thinks they're going to do now. They're like, yes, Israel attack again in September and August. Israel's crippled to hell. Iran really crippled Israel and exposed their weakness. And Iran is getting stronger. Not only did Iran defeat Israel, Iran defeated Israel easily. Yeah, did Israel get in some shots? Fair enough. But Iran's still 76 times bigger than Israel, and they can take 76 more times shot. And they pulled their punches and smushed Israel. They let the U.S. know We're preparing for you, not really. Is Israel here? We'll just throw some elbows and get them jackasses out of the way. Then we're ready for you. And the U.S. in that region may not be able to defeat Iran. And I would suspect they can't, because the U.S. can't fight a war longer than 12 days right now. In that region, 12 days, that's about it. What happens? U.S. says, all right, we're taking on Iran. And Iran on day one says, okay, well, you won't be needing these bases. I guess if you're going to attack us, I guess you won't be needing any of these bases. They're all flat. What's the U.S. going to do? A lot of people say, oh, they'll nuke them. Well, that ends the empire in a way. If you use nuclear weapons, what happens? What then? You want those assets. You want access to those assets so you can control them and you can speculate against them. Derivatives, credit default swaps, all of this stuff. You nuke it. And all this nuclear ash falls all over the Middle East, all over these oil fields and this and that. Guess what? That oil is now worthless. The whole region's worthless. A significant part of it is worthless. And what happens to the derivatives market? You think it would crash when the Straits of Hormuz were closed. That ends it. You end the empire, and all of those. How much is Bezos worth the next day? How much is all the oligarchs worth the next day? How much is ExxonMobil worth the next day? How much is ConocoPhillips and BP worth the next day after you file a nuke? You swap. You know what you're doing? You're putting an economic pistol in your mouth and pulling the trigger. I don't believe they'll do it. They may, but I don't believe they are out. They're not here to commit economic suicide. They're here to get rich. And they're here to dominate. They're here to have power. Now, in that concept, in that context, that means that Israel and Ukraine are something different than we're making them out to be. What we're making them out to be is more simplistic. Here's the way I see it. Let me start here. Number one, and that is, I put it like this. Here's the difference. Ukraine is a tool. If I want to do something, to create something, right? I want to take a screw off. I want to beat you up. I want to beat you up and rob you and take your money, right? I pick up this club and I hit you over the head with that club. That club ain't important to me. If this club don't work, I can get another club. I don't have to have this club. It's just a club. It's of no value to me. In fact, if I'm beating you with this club and that club breaks, then I'll take the rest of the club, whatever's left, and beat you to death with that club. I want to use that club to take your money. That club is a tool. That club is an implement. I have no intellectual, physical connection to that club. It is a tool that I'm going to use to beat the hell out of you with and take your money. And I'll throw it away and get another tool if that don't work. That's Ukraine. It's nothing but a tool. But what happens if I don't have a tool and I'm not using a tool and I use my fist? That's Israel. My fist, I want to punch the hell out of you with, right? But I put it like this. We've all seen this and heard of this, where somebody punches somebody and they break their hand. You've seen that. I remember I knew a person that got angry and kicked the wall and punched the wall because they were so angry. Beware if somebody does that. But they got so, that gets angry at inanimate objects. Somebody who bumps into your chair and turns around and kick the chair. Stupid chair. When you see that, to say that's a red flag is an understatement. The person has just got angry at a chair and their violence to the chair. In other words, they don't realize that their anger has nothing to do with the chair. I'm going to put my anger on the chair. When? There you go, chair. They have turned the chair into, I put it like this. It's a person who is so unable to take responsibility for their own actions that they have to project them onto an inanimate object. That's a person who has a real problem with projection and is in desperate need of some some psychological counseling. But let's continue. So Israel, Ukraine is a tool. Here's all the paper towels. I'm going to hit you with it. I don't need this anymore. I'll get another tool, right? And I'll pop you with that. Because who cares? It's just a tool. Israel is a fist. I want to be a little more wary with, I'm going to use a part of my body to hurt you, right? So I'm going to think like this, right? For instance, if you're fighting someone, there's a saying, if I'm going to hit you in a hard space, I'm going to hit you in the forehead. I want to use soft space, right? I want to use an open hand, pow, to hit you with that. Bam! With this. Because why? If I hit you with my knuckles, hard to hard, boom, I'm going to get damaged. If I want to hit you in a soft space, such as the groin, such as muscle, whatever, soft space, the neck, I want to use something hard. Now, you can use soft, but bottom line is if I'm striking you, a soft space to hit a hard object, a hard space to hit a soft object, right? I have to have concern about what I'm using you. The part of my body that I'm using to strike you must be taken into account, right? You notice something. The tool of Ukraine is thrown at Russia, and Russia is bashing Ukraine to pieces. And does the United States say, pull back? No, they don't. This is a tool. Keep going, Ukraine. Why? Yeah, you're softening Russia up a little bit. And even if you ain't, who cares? Now, they throw Israel at Iran. Iran starts battering the hell out of Israel. What do? They pull it back. Whoa, 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 whoa. We don't want Israel to get battered up like we do Ukraine. Why? Because Israel's my fist. It's part of my body. Ukraine is a disposable tool. I don't know what happens to Ukraine. See, that's the big difference. People are like, Ukraine, the Israel's controlling the US. That's one way to put it. Does my fist control my body? The fist, where does this blood in this fist come from? Where do the nutrients come from? Where does the water come from? Where does everything that happens inside of this fist come from? It comes from the rest of my body. If this fist gets injured, I feel the pain. My body's injured. If Ukraine gets injured, it's an implement, it's a tool. I can throw it aside. So while they're both used to dominate the world, I have a connection to one of them because it's part of my body. I have no connection to the other one because it's just a tool that's disposable when I'm finished. So does Israel control the US or the US control Israel? If you look, I'm not going to tell you what you got to think. I'm going to give you two options. If you believe that the Israel is part of the US, effectively the 51st state, whatever you want to call it, but more important than any of the states because where it sits, Israel is the 51st state per se, but it's more important than any of the other states. We'd sacrifice any other states for Israel. Why? Because it sits in the middle of all that damn oil. And because all of our speculation and all of our stock market and derivatives and all of that stuff about oil futures and gas futures and all of that ability to hopefully somehow affect the flow of oil so we can affect the how much the price goes up and down, all of that stuff is in that area. And it's very, it's critical. So if we had to give up California or Israel, we'd give up California. We can live without California, but the oligarchs can't make it without Israel because their market crashes. Their casino closes and their rigged casino closes and they can't have a rigged casino. Now, let's talk about the similarities. Number one, and it tells you everything you need to know. Both of them are ethnostates. What does that mean? In Israel, what is the claim to Israel? The claim is Jewish people have a right to be pampered and to live great and all of that kind of stuff. And that the Palestinians, who are the original people there, have no right to anything but death. They have no rights. They have no nothing. The Jewish people are there. It's an ethnostate, the Jewish ethnicity, right? Whatever you want to call it, you can call it a religion, but for the purposes of Israel, it is an ethnicity, right? That's the way it's used, not as a religion. So the ethnicity of Jewishness, as it were. Because what do they say? How do you know you're Jewish? If your mother was Jewish, not if you practice Judaism. How do you know you're Catholic? If you practice Catholicism, what are you going to call me? Garland, you're a Catholic, but I don't practice Catholicism. You're a Hindu, but I don't practice it. But for religion, you have to practice that religion to claim that religion. All you have to do in Israel is your mother is Jewish, you're a Jew. And there's other things, but that's the main bottom line. But here's my point being this. That doesn't really matter because what's important is that they have European and Americans in the midst of that area so they can dominate that area and they can have a military and intelligence base in the midst of all that damn oil for their oil speculators and ConocoPhillips and BP and ExxonMobil and all of the stuff needed to make these fortunes are there. But it's an ethnostate. And the ethnicity there, it has been for years by the United States, this has been pushed, has been taught and told you are superior to this other group and they got a right to nothing but death and you get everything. And they don't have the rights as you because you're superior to them. Now let's go to Ukraine and what do we have? We have the Western Ukrainians who are Slavic peoples, but they're taught that they're not Slavic people and that they're Aryans. They're the true Aryans. And because they're the true Aryans, the Russians in Eastern Ukraine are ethnically inferior and deserve only what? Death. And you got a right to take all their stuff and kill them. They don't even have the whole thing. Now think about this. The whole thing in Israel is founded on hating Arabs, disliking Arabs, and saying the Arabs around us are all bad and evil and we are superior to them. Genetically, spiritually, religious, everything superior to them. The foundation of the Banderites, of the Western Ukrainians are we're superior to the Russian-speaking ethnic Russians in Eastern Ukraine. Therefore, we have a right to kill them and take all their stuff. It is identical. They're ethnostates, violent, fascist ethnostates. That, as the United States becomes more and more desperate and more fascist, and Europe becomes more fascist and more totalitarian, and our rights get lesser and lesser, their proxies in Ukraine and in, I would argue, Israel, not only do they become more fascist, they demonstrate what's coming here. What they're going to do, what they do in Ukraine, what they do in Israel is basically what's coming back to Europe. It's like they're going to do it there first, test it out, everything, and then they bring it here and they bring it to Europe. And all you have to do is look at what's happening in Europe and look at what's happening in the United States with our so-called rights that are nothing but viewed as nothing but privileges by the ruling elite. So bottom line is, somebody says that's identity, not religion. In the gray zone, semantics lace minefield for discussion. What you are friggin' step. Well, anyway, we're having a philosophical discussion, so it doesn't matter. In fact, in a philosophical discussion, you don't even have to agree with me, and it's good if you don't. So, but at any rate, so let us continue. So we have two countries, both of them sitting on the edge of a giant, or in the midst or on the edge of a giant treasure trove of natural resources in Russia, in the Middle East. A lot of oil, a lot of gas, but whatever the case may be, both of them sitting on the edge of natural resources. Both of them are ethnostates. Both of them are totalitarian, fascist ethnostates. One, they use religion. The other, they use, bottom line, supposedly religion. And really, it's just ethnicity or identity. I'm Jewish, you're Muslim, Arab, Palestinian, whatever. Over here, I'm a Western European Banderite, which means I'm actually an Aryan, right? Which means the superiorness of the superiority of the Northern Europeans, some kind of ways, over these darn Slavic Russians who are inferior to us. How sad and pathetic is that? How sad and pathetic is that? That people who, let me add this. Here's what is ironic in another way that they're identical. Oh, where did the Holocaust happen? In Europe. And what happened in Europe for thousands of years? So for, I don't know how long, Europe was the center of hatred for Jews, right? It was the center of anti-Semitism. And really, the Holocaust was like the consummation of all of that. It was the final great explosion of 1,000 years of hating Jews and pogroms. So the people, the leadership, the ruling elite in Europe, who utilize, anytime people would get mad and say, hey, things ain't going so well for us as a result of the ruling elite, they would say, well, there's Jews over here. Let's go kill a bunch of them. You'll be better off, right? Who always use the Jews as scapegoats. Now, say we're the salvation for the Jews. We're here to help the Jews, save the Jews. We're here to stop anti-Semitism. The ruling elite in Europe were the most anti-Semitic people on earth. And they're here to convince us that they're the salvation for the, and we're arguing over whether the Jews are Semites or not, whether they're Europeans or whatever, when this is all political and it's really all about money and scapegoating people, right? It has nothing to do with Jewishness. But so the people, the ruling elite of Europe, who are the most anti-Semitic people in the world, say, we're going to send them over to here. But think about it. Well, we in Europe tried to kill all the Jews. So the Jews deserve something in return. So rather than give them part of Germany, which would have been the fair thing to do, because German, Eastern Europe, Ukraine, the Poles, these people, you know, the Baltics, these were the people that were so happy about giving them Jews. Give them damn Lithuania, give them Poland, give them whatever. If you're going to give the Jews something, give them the countries that tried to kill them. No, 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 no. It would be much more convenient if we go to the Middle East where all this damn oil is and give them a place there and just say, yeah, God helped you, gave you that for 2,000. You take it. And we're going to put you there. And then we're going to piss the people off in the region so you'll be dangerous. I mean, so your life will be dangerous and you'll be threatened. Or bullcrap. But the people who hated Jews and were the most anti-Semitic argue we're there to save the Jews. Now, the same way, the ruling elite of the Europeans hated the Slavs and the Russians. What do they try to do? Every 100 years, every time you turn around, they're attacking the Russians. Napoleon's going to attack the Crimean War, the World War II. Every time you turn around, they're going to attack the Russians and steal all their stuff, right? They hated Slavs, always did. Slav is, slave, right? The Slavs were below them in economically inferior. So what do? They go convince a bunch of Slavs who they hate that they're superior to other Slavs who they hate, and that on behalf of the ruling elite of Europe, these poor dumb bastards, brainwashed bastards, go die in industrial quantities on behalf of the ruling elite that hate them. Think about it. It's identical. Hey, Jews, yeah, sorry about all of that 1,000 years of pogroms and taking all of your stuff. You had no rights. And of course, we finally finished off with the Holocaust or tried to. But we're going to look out for you now. Trust them. How? We're going to put you in the middle of the Middle East with all of these Muslims. And the Muslims are like, well, we've always got along with the Jews. Not a problem. But we're going to steal their land and we're going to genocide them. And then they'll really be pissed off at you. The Muslims have always gotten along with the Jews. It was the safest place to go to Iran, Jews everywhere. What the Muslims are not pissed at the Jews because they're Jewish. They're pissed because they're coming over there, stealing their land, and they're genociding them and bombing them and attacking all their countries, trying to steal everything they got. Because they're Europeans and they're acting as Europeans. They're acting on behalf of the ruling elite of Europe, not on behalf of the working class people of Europe, because the working class people ain't gonna get a damn thing out of it anyway. All they're going to get is screwed, just like the Arabs. They're cannon fodder. They are wood to be burned for the fire. They're fuel for the machine. But the ruling elite are going to throw them over there and say, go over there. And now look what's happening. They threw them into a fight with Iran. When they started fighting, this is a true story. You can anybody can look it up. When Iran started battering the hell out of them, what did the leaders of Israel say? All these Jews were heading for the airport. They said, you can't leave. Well, wait, whoa, we're trying to leave. There's a war. No, they won't allow the Jews to leave and go the hell back to where they came from, where they'll be safe. No, because they're cannon fodder. And what do you got in Ukraine? You got like people trying to escape the country, drowning, trying to swim across rivers, doing everything they can to get out of the country so they won't be cannon fodder. And what are they saying? No, you can't leave. We're helping that country out. Yeah, well, the people there want out. Well, they can't have out. They got to go to war on behalf of the European ruling elite and die every damn one of them. That's weird. The other thing you got to realize too is this, and this is important. One of the things that I said earlier was what they do in Ukraine and Israel is that's what they're going to do there. They're going to practice it out. They're going to game it out, and then they're going to do it here, right? So what happens when the fascists came to power in Ukraine? When they put the fascists in power in Ukraine, what did they do? They started censorship, heavy censorship. You can't do this. You can't say this. You can't, or you'll be in trouble. And what did they bring home here? Censorship. All the things that they did here, they're bringing home. They're bringing home here. So just if you want to know what their plans are for here, just look at what they're doing in Israel and just look at what they're doing in Ukraine. They plan on starting a war, just like they do in Ukraine, a war with China. And what do they want to do then? They want to go out and they want to grab your sons and daughters and throw them in a van and send them to the front to die. That's their plans. We're going to fight. Think about this. We're going to go to war with China. What do you think the young folks in the United States will do? If they say, okay, we've decided to go to war with China, young 20-year-olds, you got to go. We're going to go to war in the Middle East, and you guys got to die on behalf of Israel. What do you think? You think the young people in America are going to say, yeah, great idea, let's go? No, they'll say, no, we're not going. They'll say, oh, really? We're going to now send press gangs around. It's going to grab you, beat the living hell out of you, throw you in a press gang, and off you'll go to the front. That's their plan. You don't believe that's what they're doing there. Everything they do there, they bring here. How about this? What happened in Ukraine? They outlawed all of these parties. The socialist party. They outlawed in Ukraine every party except Zelensky's party is outlawed. Every party. What do you think you're planning on doing here? You think you're going to get away with having another party? What happens when somebody tries to run on the Green Party or whatever party? What happens? The Democrats go and they sue them to get them off the ballot. Well, you think the Republicans are not in favor of that? You think that why did the Republicans not say we don't want that? That would not be American. We'll fight that. Not a word, not a peep out of it. The whole game is rigged. The Republicans and the Democrats. I got a question. Trump now says, hey, look, the Epstein files don't exist. Shut up, leave me alone. Right? People are like, Trump, look what Trump's doing. Can you believe what Trump's doing? Trump is doing this, Trump's doing that. Now, the Democrats have been attacking Trump. Trump, you can't do this, you can't do that. Blah, 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 blah. Right? Okay, the Epstein files. Yeah, they don't exist. Well, they did, but they don't. I don't know how. Leave me alone. There's nothing you can do. Right? That's the game plan. I would think the opposition to Trump, no kings. We're fighting Trump. That the Democrats would jump up and scream, we're not going to have that. We're not putting up with that. Trump, you can't get away with that. Okay, what are the Trump saying? What are the Democrats saying about Epstein? They're so quiet, you could hear a rat piss on cotton. These people ain't doing nothing. Not a word out of the Democrats because it's a fraud, because it's a game. Look, okay, some guy, Mamdani wins. Zoran Mamdani. Now, you know, if you listen to me, you know how I feel about DSA, the Democratic Socialists for America. If you like, I don't care if you are a lefty. I'm a lefty. But here's what I got to say. If you think Bernie and AOC are anything other than puppets for the system, you're a fool. And who's loving this guy more than anybody else? Bernie and AOC. Yes, we support him. He's DSA. It's a fraud. And I think Mamdani's a fraud. And add this, what's happening? He just hired some big Democrat person or something to work in his party, right? It's a fraud. Let's see. He's there, and the Democrats have said, we've got to stop him. And the Republicans have said, we've got to stop him. Here's the game. We're supposed to then say, the Democrats hate him and the Republicans hate him. He must be the real deal. He ain't the real deal. No. The real deal is not allowed to win anything. If he was the real deal, he'd be backed over by a garbage truck or something. He'd be in a small plane crash or something. He'd slip on a banana peel and fall down an elevator shaft. Something would happen to him if he was the real deal. I'm sorry. He is DSA. As soon as Bernie and AOC came out, the people who never saw a war that they weren't in favor of, the people whose mouth is absolutely sewn shut when it comes to genocide, when it comes to Ukraine, they're in favor of it. Those people, come on. I'm supposed to think this guy's just because he did the simplest of things. He opposed genocide. Dude, and dudettes. Opposing genocide is not something that you should be applauded for. It is the minimum you should do. Hey, I oppose genocide. Well, if you don't even talk to me. Not, hey, did you see that politician? Yeah, he opposes genocide. Oh my God, this genocide, I love it. No, hey, did you see that politician? He opposes genocide. Oh, well, duh. If he doesn't, he's a monster. If he doesn't, he's an animal. That's what every human being with any conscience any semblance of a conscience should do. But now we're being told that a guy is a hero just because he allegedly opposes genocide. they've set the bar so low that now it's a heroic thing to oppose genocide. No, it's not. You're doing the minimum. So that's something we're supposed to love him for. Well, he proposed, I gotta support him. He opposes genocide. No, I don't. Okay, he opposes genocide. He has met the minimum requirements. Minimum. Now let's look at the rest of us, what he's got to say. Let's see. He's going to increase anti-racism stuff for 800% to fight anti-Semitism. The definition of anti-Semitism in the United States now is opposing genocide. It used to be if you hate Jews, you're anti-Semitic. Now, if the Zionists hate you, you're anti-Semitic. Not Jews, period. Jews could, all the Jews who are opposed to it could say, we love Garland. Garland's opposed to Israel doing terrible things, and we are not in my name. We are Jews for peace and justice, and we're opposed to it. They could all love me. But if one Zionist says, I hate Garland, then Garland becomes an anti-Semite. That's the definition. If you're hated by the Zionists or designated, you're a designated anti-Semite. Hey, you know, I think perhaps something that Israel's doing is unfair. Oh, we have groups that go around and create lists. And the list says, here's the list of people who are opposed to apartheid. Here's a list of people who are opposed to the terrible things that Israel is doing. They give them to Trump. All right. He gives them to the intelligence community. He gives them to the FBI, and those people are dealt with. They're effectively an unofficial secret police. That's what they are. These Zionist groups that give names to the government and say, go get them, are effectively a secret police. They're not technically working for the government, but where's their damn money really coming from? Billionaire Zionists. And how do billionaire Zionists get rich? Through the domination of the U.S. empire. So really they're manifested. The finances that support them come as a part of the U.S. domination and horrible, terrible things in the military-industrial complex. That's how they get their money. So in a indirect way, they're paid by the government. And then they have a list of names, and it says things like Garland Nixon. Oh my God, president, here's the name. And the president says, that son of a bitch, he's got to go. Boys, go get him. And the next thing you know, I'm here at an undisclosed location in a secret bunker, 800 meters below the surface. Oh my God, there's the bones of Dick Cheney. Oh, imagine that. Anyway, so what we're looking at here is a situation where the U.S. empire is in a fairly desperate mode, and it has two Frankenstein monsters, and they are very much identical. And guess what? Things ain't working out. Now, there is one last element of the Frankenstein dynamic versus theory dynamic, whatever you want to call it, right? That you got to understand, that you got to get. What happened to the Frankenstein monster in the end? Right? Okay. In Frankenstein monster, let's do this. Let's get there. The people of the town surrounded Frankenstein's castle. He's up in the top of the castle, and you know, there's what do you got? There's lightning strikes and all of these things going on, right? And there's a storm, and Dr. Frankenstein's up there, and the people are surrounding the castle screaming, the monster must die. And they got their pitchforks, their farming utensils, and they got torches. The monster must die, Frankenstein. Of course, they're going to kill Dr. Frankenstein too. And what happens? What does the monster do? Ultimately, every time you watch this, the monster picks up Dr. Frankenstein, goes over to the window, which you're in a castle, you're pretty high up there. Out the window goes Dr. Frankenstein. And then like the castle burns and then the monster dies and all this stuff. Okay, here's my point. In this thing, the monster always turns on Dr. Frankenstein. You create this monster, and this monster in this context always comes back to get you. It comes back to haunt you. Karma works its way through that monster to you. So what we're looking at, I think, also is this. The old folks would say things like the same thing that'll make you laugh will make you cry, right? I have predicted from the beginning of the Ukraine conflict that the day will come when the Ukrainians say two things I predicted. How does the US get out? Right? What did I predict a year ago? I called it the Samsonite option. They pack their stuff and get out. Larry Johnson was very wise, and he took that Samsonite option and he transposed it over to the Israeli Frankenstein monster. And he said, the Samsonite option, that all of these Jewish people, Israelis, who had alternate dual citizenship, would exercise the Samsonite option. They would pack their Samsonite luggage and they would say, Israel is no longer a safe place to be. We're out of here, right? So I think the U.S. at some point is going to have to get the hell out of Ukraine. It can't afford it. And when it does, leave it for Europe, and Europe's these people. Macron and Starmer and Neritz, brilliant strategists, but their people are going to end up eating him alive. But my point is, the monster destroys its master. Two things: the monster destroys its master. Number one, in the religious context of, and this is something you have to understand. In the religious context of creating this monster, God created man, people create something. What do they always create? It in its own image. If you want to understand why the policies that the ruling elite institute in Israel, the totalitarian policies in Israel and Ukraine always come home, because they've created Ukraine and Israel in their own image. The ruling elite have created Ukraine and Israel in their own image. This is what they see. This is how they see a society should be ruled. And now that they have the opportunity to rule a society, the ruling elite of the US have the opportunity to rule Israel or to rule Ukraine with no constraints. This is the way they believe society should be ruled. And if unchecked by constitution, if unchecked by people who can push back, if unchecked by anything, this is what they'll do every time. All you got to do is look at Ukraine and look at Israel. The war started, people said, I'm going home. They said, you can't leave. And now they're getting battered to hell. If you look at it, very closely at the Ukraine and see how it is being ruled. If these people, the ruling elite of Europe and the United States, are given the opportunity to rule this country or any European country unchecked by government policy, unchecked by pushback from the people, this is what they'll do every time, including marching around, goose stepping all over creation with Nazi insignia all over. That it just goes to show they always loved the Nazis. That is the structure that they see for society: complete and total top-down domination. When Donald Trump said, "Make America great again, America first," and the MAGA people said, "Oh, we think that means something great, that we elect you and you represent us." And what did Donald Trump ultimately say? Donald Trump ultimately said this: "No, it doesn't. Here's what it means. It means I decide what America first means." Didn't he say that? I decide what MAGA means. I decide what America first means. Top-down politics. You don't elect me and then I act on your behalf and do what you told me to do. Then no, that's not the way the ruling elite see it. What if the Democrats been saying for years, how dare you not vote for Kamala? How dare you not vote for Biden? How dare you not vote for who we tell you to vote, right? Top-down politics. It's not that you elect us and we act on your behalf. It's not that we have to act in a way that makes you want to vote for us. No, you have a duty to vote for us. We told you what to do, you damn dumb little idiots. And you won't shut up and vote for us. Trump. I came up with Make America Great Again and MAGA first. MAGA, America first, make MAGA, all that. I came up with that. It's mine, not yours, you stupid little voters. And you will do as you're told. I'll decide what MAGA means, not you. He didn't say that before he got elected, did he? He didn't say America first, make America great again. Oh, and by the way, I decide what that means. And it means what I say it means. As what was it, Humpty Dumpty said in Through the Looking Glass. My words mean exactly what I say they mean. That's what Trump. Hey, we've decided America first means actually America first. Trump, no, it doesn't. It means Israel first or whatever. I mean, shut up. I got your vote now. Nothing you can do to stop me. You bought it. You bit the hook. It is what it is. Hey, remember hope and change from Obama? Can I get hope and change? You can hope for change, but don't hope for hope. That's hopeless, right? No luck whatsoever. You got the same damn thing with Trump as you got with Obama. That's what it is. It's hilarious. But anyway, let me continue. Let me finish up. So, bottom line is this: the time will come when Frankenstein will turn on the monster. The Ukrainians will wake up one day and say, "You sons of bitches, you lied to us. We've been took, hoodwinked, we've been bamboozled, misled, led astray, and we will get our revenge." And they'll be armed to the teeth, and they will then take their revenge. Well, the United States is a little far away. Western Europe's a lot closer, ain't it? They're going to kick the hell out of Western Europe. They're going to do what do you call it? They're going to do right now. The Western Europeans are like, yes, what we'll do is when the war's over, we will then do all kind of terrorist crap against Russia. Oh, it's going to be so much fun. The war will never be over. We'll have all of these dumb friggin' banderites and we'll throw them at Russia. They'll do terrorist stuff. Maybe we can get them to do suicide bombers. Vanilla ISIS, here we come. Right back where we started from, right? Ukrainians are going to get pissed at him. If you go to my YouTube channel and you look at what I said in my speech to the United Nations Security Council, I warned them. I told them, don't ever forget that. Go watch that if you get a chance. Number one. Number two, numero dos. Israel. What do you think? They're going to be, they're not going to be arrogant and say we deserve everything and more. I understand, if I'm not mistaken, and I said this, I think, let me see. Here we go. Let's see. Texas Senator Ted Cruz is pushing for, listen to this. Texas Senator Ted Cruz is pushing for an additional $250 billion in aid to Israel just days after Texas was hit by a devastating flood, right? Think about this. I told you. Texas over here, Israel over there. Texas, Israel. Israel. What I said was this a few weeks ago. Israel's going to get bashed to pieces and they're getting blown to hell. And they're telling us, oh, the Iranians didn't touch us, barely touched us, didn't really do any damage at all. Nothing. We won. Ha ha ha. We took out Iran, we crushed Iran, and now we might have a few minor flesh wounds. And now Ted Cruz is like 250 billion. Let me ask you this. You think they got 250 billion for Texas? They're still looking for bodies. How about Louisiana or Florida? Remember North Carolina? You got $700. So you get $700. How about the cities, Baltimore City? You think they could use some money? How about the poor people in the Mississippi Delta? You think they could help them rebuild something, get jobs? How about, let's see, homeless people, veterans, anything? They're laying off lots and lots of American people. They're going to lay off all of these federal workers. Apparently now they're laying off more federal workers. You think they can afford to pay the federal workers? No, they can't. Not if you're giving $250 billion to Israel. Lay off Americans, give money to Israel. I would ask anybody, if your choice, Americans over here who have a job, Israel's over here who get free education, who get free health care, who get free every damn thing they tell us we can't get it. We'd like free education. That'd be socialism and communism. Well, how about free healthcare, communism and socialism? Why would you want the government to do that? Absolutely not. Go out and pay $1,000 a month for your healthcare. Oh, okay. What about Israel? Hell, they're getting free education and healthcare. That's not communism and socialism unless the working class in America want it. The Israelis get it. You got a lot of settlers there that don't work, that they build these settlements, build them, their homes. They get them free. They get money paid each week. Their food. They got settlers in Israel who pay nothing. Their entire lives are paid for by us. But if we ask for anything like that, if I say, look, you got a lot, I see these homeless people walking down the street, talking to themselves. A lot of them really have very serious mental illness, right? Perhaps we could at least help the people with mental illness. Come on. I see some guy walking down New York Avenue. It's 85 degrees and he has on a winter coat, and he's talking to himself. That guy ain't faking. He's completely insane. I think in a kind of reasonable country, you say we kind of got to do something to keep that guy shouldn't be homeless. He needs help. Some young girl, her parents died, or they're drug addicts, or they're whatever, and she's put in a foster home. She turns 18. She's turned out on the street. She's turned out on the street. She's 18 years old. Turned out on the street now. She's on her own. She don't have a decent education. She's probably been sexually abused in various foster homes by crazy people who just brought her there so they could pedophile her or some crazy crap. Her life has been hell. She doesn't know anything. She doesn't have a decent education. Absolutely nothing. We turn her out on the street and give her a few bucks and say, okay, you're free. What does she turn to? Prostitution, to drugs, to whatever the case. We don't have anything to help that young girl or young boy who's 18 years old. Not a dime for them unless they're in Israel. They're in Israel and they're a settler. We got them covered. That's the country that we live in. That's the country that we live in. You break your leg, you get injured, you got health care. You go to the doctor and they say, we got good news and bad news. Okay, what is it? The good news is you got health care, you're covered. The bad news is you got a $1,000 a day deductible and this and that. And before you know it, you got health care and you still owe $10,000 that you don't have, because you thought you had health care, but it had so many holes in it that you didn't really have health care. Well, the bill is $50,000, and out of that, you're going to owe $49,900 of it. But the health care covers $100. Wait a minute, I pay $1,000 a month. Yeah, but these people got to make money. It's a fraud. Unless you're in Israel, then you don't have to worry about any of that crap. It's over, done. That's the United States. That's the country that we live in. And ultimately, this, you spoil a child. If you spoil a child, spoil it, no matter what, the child's going to grow up and hate his parents every time. They're going to, oh, mom, I need a new car. Well, I'm not giving you a new car. I gave you a new car last year, but I want a new car every year. No, you can't get a new car this year. I hate you, Bobby. I hate you. Why? Because I deserve a new car every year, and I just got one last year. You won't give me one. I hate you. I'm mad at you. They're not going to say thanks for the new car. They have an expectation. The term is entitled. Israel feels entitled. At any rate, thanks a lot, everybody. Before I go, let me go, and I'm going to go through the super chats. We're going to go through the super chats before we go. Let's start here. Chili Pepper says, 2 leaders, both Jewish, probably Zionists, both want to take out the Slavs. A coincidence? I think not. That bioweapons nearly produced was made especially for Slavs. All right. It is interesting too that Zelensky's Jewish. You know what? So let's see. Zelensky is Jewish. He's from Ukraine. Netanyahu is Jewish. He's from Ukraine. Isn't that interesting? I don't know if it means anything, but I think it's interesting. How about this? Victoria Nuland is Jewish. And she's from Ukraine. I'm not saying it means anything. I'm just saying that's a reality. If they were all black and they were all from East Baltimore, I'd just say that. That wouldn't mean I hated black folks. That would mean they were all black folks from East Baltimore. But it's called the global. Now, and here's the thing. I'm not a person who says I'm angry at Jews or I hate Jews or Jews. I think Jews have been victims of anti-Semitism in Europe, and I think they should think to themselves, the people who've done the bad things to us are claiming to do the good things for us. They probably ain't. And I think number 2, they're being used as human shields. And when this whole charade and game falls apart, the same ruling elite that claim to love the Jews will scapegoat them. When Americans get mad and say, somebody screwed us, our whole economy fell apart, who was it? And the ruling elite will say, it was Israel. It was the Jews. That the ruling elite will turn on them. That's what they are. They're human shields. And when they need them to be human shields again, they'll just scapegoat them and say, yeah, it wasn't the ruling elite here. It wasn't the oligarchs or the billionaires. It was the Jews. Go get them. That's hopefully the Jewish people, which I don't know, what some Jewish people may understand that, may not, but hopefully people understand they're being used as human shields, and human shields will be used as human scapegoats at some point. It's called the Global Syndicate, and someone mapped it out but can't post it. Interesting. All right, let us keep going. Yeah, Chili Pepper says, "Did you hear Ehsan Safarniyad on Jamal?" No, I need to check him out. You know, Jamal's great, good friend of mine. Think the world of him. Did you hear? I said, "No, I didn't." Thank you very much. Thank you for all the super chats and all that stuff. How about Chili Pepper says, "What's his PO box?" Ooh. Good question. Oh, my thing's not going across the bottom. Doggone it. There we go. I think that's it. Maybe? No? Could that be right? PayPal. If that's the one that has my PO box, it's PO Box 32. I'm trying. There's Cash App. PO Box should be next. Substack. No, Substack. And then PO Box should be next. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Mail. Yes, sir. There's my PO Box 32, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21060. Let's continue. Oh, what's this PO Box? All right. Any more super chats? Are there any more super chats? I'm looking from, oh, here we go. We got another one. Thank you for your hard work, Garland. Thank you, Steph. Man, people are really very, very nice in there, helping the channel. We got a super sticker from JR Shield, 10 beans. Thanks a lot, JR Shield. Certainly appreciate that. Let us keep going. Ooh, okay. Basil Beshkov says West hates Hitler and Stalin. First one for losing, second for winning. That's a good point. That's a good point. They'll never forgive Hitler for losing. They'll never forgive Stalin for winning. All right. Well, you know what, guys and girls? I think that's it. I must retreat to my Ryan Wagner's mother is from Ukraine. Well, whatever the case may be. Ryan Ruth, I don't know who Ryan Wagner is. Anyway, thanks a lot, everybody. I must now retreat. I am at my undisclosed bunker, 600 to 800 meters. I don't even gonna tell you how many meters it is. It's highly classified. Hundreds and hundreds of meters below the granite of a country that is also undisclosed, far, far from the United States borders. I'm out. Have a great day. Oh, most importantly, I almost forgot. If you can, follow me on Rockfin, follow me on Rumble, follow me on Telegram, all that kind of stuff. Follow me on Substack. If you can afford it, you can do Patreon. You can do Buy Me a Coffee. That's always easy. Buy Garland a coffee. How much? $5. How many? As many as you want. And don't forget, Buy Me a Coffee now can be like Patreon. When you go to send the $5 or however many, it'll say, you want to make this monthly, and you can do the same Patreon thing. A lot of people don't like Patreon because it's always throwing people off if they try to do the right thing. So a lot of people prefer to go to Buy Me a Coffee. And of course, I got PayPal, and what's the other one? Cash App. And of course, PO Box 32, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21061. I got a PO Box. You can send a donation there if you choose. You can send a just a letter or a card. You can send books. I've got people that send me books, people that send me magazines, people that send me stuff that they wrote, all that kind of stuff. It's great. Thanks a lot, everybody. I'm out. And share this everywhere on your social media platforms. Peace. Garland, are you going fishing? Probably not. I doubt it. All right. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. I'm out.